Today we're going to talk about looking for Mr. Right. Actually, and this involves Mrs. Right too, if you want to call it that. But in a way, I should call it looking for Mr. Light or Mrs. Light, because ultimately we're looking for a more spiritual experience in our relationships. But the catchy phrase that people use, looking for Mr. Right. So we're going to use that sort of to launch this from. And, it's an interesting topic. Relationships are just a pretty consistent topic on people's minds. Even people that are single, and thinking they want to stay that way, relationships are still something that kind of enters our radar now and again. But whether you feel single or you're already partnered, you're married, you're not married, never been married, whatever the status, there's still relevance to what I'd like to share today. And one thing came from just a few moments ago. I saw on Facebook Live, Facebook, one of my Facebook groups, somebody posted something and they expressed the following. I'm just kind of looking at a note because I scribbled it down. No matter how much work I've done on myself, I keep finding or creating the same kinds of guys in my life. And again, guys, this applies no matter what gender, what sexual preference or whatever, even work. And no matter what I've done on myself, with myself, work on myself, I seem to end up with the same kinds of jobs. You see, this is about patterns, really. And so some people would immediately, and they would be correct to say, well, the solution is you have to change some patterns. And obviously when somebody says, I've been doing work on myself, it's obviously that they're not sitting around doing nothing. They're saying that they're doing work. Sure, it's possible that they're not doing quite the perfect work or an effective method of work. Maybe it's the missing piece is hypnotherapy. Maybe the missing piece is going to be psychotherapy. Maybe it's going to be prayer. Maybe it's going to be acceptance and letting go and not trying to force it or just to let go so you can just surrender so the universe can more freely help. There are differing reasons why these things might happen. So the first thing I'd like to say, though, on that, we change what we can, we accept what we cannot. So find peace no matter where you are. Find peace starting where you are. Start where you are. Peace first. How can I find as much peace as possible right here in a relationship that might not feel great? Okay? How can I still find peace here? Let's pretend for a moment things are so chaotic, so disturbing, maybe even violent, if not just verbally abusive. Then maybe I can't really, as a human being, I'm just not there to where I can find perfect peace in turmoil. Obviously, then, first answer, out. Get out, move, do something, find a way out, have an exit strategy, and support yourself in that you have value. Get some breathing room, get some sanity. That's in that extreme case. What if I'm in a relationship and I work on finding peace and it works pretty well? Great. Then you stay there for a little longer. If you don't decide to leave, you can stay a little longer. And you can just simply do some work on yourself. Some people, this varies so much, there's no one answer, but some people decide they're going to just, even though they have children, they're going to co-parent. And they're like a team still in the same house for maybe a little longer, years or whatever it is. Other people are going to be, well, the kids are gone, or there are no kids, but we're going to cohabitate. We're going to just simply out of necessity or out of friendship, we're going to share the same house but different rooms, but under certain agreements, like no people being brought over, for intimate things and all that when you have your, former partner in the same house and all that. Let's just, have vows of that or commitments to that along those lines. So there's all that, okay? Dealing with change what you can, but before you can change what you can, you need to have some peace, some sanity. You're not going to do a great job changing your life if there's still patterns of the past haunting you or just a chaotic experience or environment. So find some peace. Whether it's you're trying to change a pattern of work or of relationships, friendships, make sure you have a space of peace so you can connect with spirit to sort of get your head clear and then be able to move from there. Move forward in some way from there. That's for starters. If I can't find peace, I might have to split, but peace first, God first. Then I'm doing some work now on what's going on. The first thing to do is what? Fix everybody and get them to behave a certain way? No. I'm going to start taking some time for soul searching. I'm not saying that you haven't already done this. Take some time for soul searching. you want to find job right or Mr. Right or Mrs. Right or partner right or whatever it is. We have to get a little more right first. There's a saying that I use, and I've done talks, I think, under this specific title, assembling a new life, assembling a new relationship. You practice this, try this out. When it's time that you've done some inner work, and you do not have to be perfect to create a better job or a relationship or whatever it is you want to create. You don't have to be perfect. But are you at least aware of what better looks like? That what wasn't good in the past, or you have to own what wasn't good first. And, are you aware that there is a better life that you can be seeking? In other words, there's a place I'm going to go. I can taste it. I can feel it. It's called an inspiration, really. So I want to go in a new direction. So you have to have some mindset along those lines. And then I think it's time for a new relationship or a new job or whatever, but I'm going to assemble. So assemble a new life. And I'll be brief about this because there's a whole talk on it, but I'm going to assemble a new job or I'm going to assemble a new relationship. Now, I'm only saying relationship. It doesn't mean it doesn't apply to other categories. So just use your imagination however it can apply. But in regards to relationship, for me to assemble a relationship, in part what it means is, imagine it being like not like the ambitious visualization some people do. I have so many friends and heard so many students along the lines along my life, where they had these prayer maps, treasure maps, charts, life charts, or whatever, different kinds of charts for creating a new life, which are great. All of them are great. But they often have an image of a perfect someone out there. I'm not actually encouraging the same thing. It just sounds a little similar. I'm not like telling you to put actors' photos there and, the perfect, smile and I'm going to have that guy. I'm not asking you to get into idolatry, like objectifications of people and I want that guy. Because that's all so strange anyway. Often you're putting images of people that are so foreign to you or unreal that you're actually distancing yourself from a new relationship because you're putting such stuff on it, such imagery on it. Spiritual teachers or authors or athletes that we go, wow, they would be amazing to be with. As soon as you've made it into somebody who is something else, like a thing, an object, a role, a title, a name, whatever it is, you're gonna feel maybe the heart flutter, like, wouldn't that be cool? But at the same time, as soon as you've gotten in love with a label or a kind of digging a concept of a label, a thing out there, even if it's the traditional, wow, the hot girl and the Playboy centerfold, I don't think they even have that magazine anymore, but that kind of, as soon as you do that, the guys that go to the strip clubs, look at the girls stripping. As soon as you do that, it's an object you've made. I'm not trying to shame or wrong. I'm saying that literally, though, energetically and literally, you have an object that you're sort of putting there. That's what I would love, man. But as soon as you do that, there's already a distance between you. You're not saying, that's my experience in here. You're immediately going, oh, and there's this outside thing you wish you had. And it's objectification, it's idolatry, and it's coveting for something, coveting something, wishing you had it. As soon as there's an it that you could wish you had, you don't have it. So instead, it looks similar, but it's different. Assembling relationships. And that means instead of going, wow, they're great looking. Wow, what a nice family. I wish I had a family like that. Or whatever the topic is. You just start saying, and so it is. Just start feel that. Imagine that within yourself. If you look at somebody and say, oh, God, I wish I had their creativity. Just start imagining that you have it and then live it. Live accordingly. If you say, I could never be that pretty. Well, you're not going to be that specific pretty, that thing. You're not going to be that person. Wish I could be that pretty. As soon as you say that, it's it's a thing. Instead, what do you mean? There's something about it. Look inside. Like you could say, oh man, she's hot. He's hot. He's so handsome. Whatever it is, they're so wealthy or whatever the topic is. There's something about it that you're supposed to be looking for. Not the it, but about it. What's happening in here? So let's say you see somebody and they look wildly successful, really, wow, the way they dress, the way they carry themselves, everything's just wildly successful, prosperous, and the whole bit. So when you say, oh God, I would love to be with a guy like that, girl like that, whatever it is, then you have to consider, what is the thing that behind it that I'm actually looking for? Because you say, I want a guy like that. Really? What if that guy is an abuser? See, and that's where some of you end up in trouble. There's something you think you like, and then you go after it and you go, how did it end up the same kind of person again? How did I end up with that again? And then you start looking for patterns, which is something to look for, which is healthy and right. But you're missing an important point, which is the one I'm naming now. Because you're looking at the it, you're not looking at what's behind the it, just the it, like cousin it, an Addams Family. So you end up with that kind of like a creature, even though that's a cute one. You end up with an it. And then you're bewildered by it, So instead, what is it I wanted really? When I was looking at them, close your eyes, stop staring with these things because they lie to you. There's something they bring up when I tune in. Oh, they're good looking. And then that brings up what? Well, if they could like somebody like me, I would feel better about myself. So what you just said, really, I wish I could feel better about myself. And you named it them. I wish I had them. You're actually wanting to feel better about yourself. Or, oh my God, I wish I had a person like that. Why? Because they just look so wealthy and happy. So it's the prosperity, not them. Prosperity. Call it in. Just acknowledge it. When you think the prosperity is in them, they have a secret. They have the key to your universe, and that's not true, nor accurate, nor healthy. I wish I had their prosperity. No, it's yours that you want, not theirs. So that's another way to look at this. And so I encourage people to assemble, to say, what is it about that I like? I know what it is. And bring in the healthy part of that in here. Kind of claim it for yourself. I wish I had wrote as many books as that person. Forget the number of books. Is that what you're looking for? No, it's, I wish I had several books. You wish who had? Then start writing them. Just start writing them. Own things. Own them within yourself. The concept of thou shalt not covet in the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not covet, means, it's not like a don't you dare. It's you don't need to. Beloved children of mine, God is saying, you don't need to covet. What is it you'd look for? What is it you're liking? What is it you want? Peace? Okay, let's do the work to get you peace. Not their peace, yours. Wish I had health like them. Then let's nurture your health. And of course, sometimes there's work involved. Because that person might have been eating healthy and living healthy for years and years. You might have been, drinking and drugging and partying, whatever, and stressing for years and years. And then you decide, God, I wish I had their health. And you're like 99. It's going to be a little bit challenging to get that body reprogrammed into a healthy body of the one you see in somebody else who's 30, and they've been living healthy for all those years. And then we get upset and think, oh, I don't deserve, or God's not there for me. We have to take some responsibility here. However, again, how can I bring that into my life? If I saw somebody that was really healthy and me being, let's say just about 60 now, and I see somebody who's, say 30, I'm just making up numbers, but that's about right. And so as I approach 60 and I'm looking at a 30-year-old and say, wow, I wish I had their health. I don't want their health, I want mine. How can I get my health to be as good as possible? And so if I were abusing my body with stuff, that had been making me sick all along and that sort of thing, or drugging or drinking or whatever, one of the things I would do is, instead of just getting upset that it's not happening immediately, I would say to myself, well, it takes 7 years for all the cells of the body to be rejuvenated. Because all of them are different. 7 years from now, the body's through a complete cycle of all the cells are gone by then and new ones have been replaced. So all the cells are rejuvenating, replacing themselves within every 7 years max. So I would say to myself, hey, well, this could be 7 years. And if I'm 99, may not make it all the way to prime health. But I would do that. No matter what your age, I'd say 7 years. And if I were doing relationship changes and I've been doing unhealthy patterns for, let's say, 20 years, yeah, I might think, this could take a few years of work. I wouldn't fate it to be 20, because miracles destroy time in a good sense. They nullify time in some sense. They can override it. That doesn't mean it negates it completely, but it changes time. Time, like a karma, let's say, some sort of contract that if I've been eating unhealthy, or if I've been doing unhealthy relationships for 20 years, and I get on a healthy cycle of it, I can negate the 20 down to 2. I can alter the 20 down to 2 through miracle consciousness. Because as I heal, then the source of my life, I'm a source, right? The source, the projector, the projectionist, is playing the movies onto the screen of life. And so that projectionist changes movies. And it takes a moment. I put in the wrong movie. God, I'm tired of seeing horror movies. Then I'm going to change movies. But guess what, guys? It takes a few minutes to change films. Once I get the new film in, here's what's going to happen. First of all, it took me a few minutes to change film. Now me or the audience or whatever is going to go, oh, thank God we came in to see Romeo and Juliet and he put on, whatever, The Exorcist. And, so now, okay, fine, a different movie. But guess what? The people in the theater, they're not going to instantly go, click, oh, Romeo and Juliet. It's going to be like, okay, let's switch gears here. Wow. How do I erase some of that crap that I just saw, and however many minutes of that I was watching and so on. How dramatic, what scenes did I see? Wow. It's going to have an impact, and it's going to take a few minutes to, okay, got it, feeling better, sitting differently in my seat. You see, what I'm saying is sometimes it takes time to acclimate to that new. So when I hear somebody say, I've done all this work and it's not working, it is working. Please do not negate your work. It takes time sometimes for that to shift over. I'm not saying you've definitely done all the work. Let's find out. You look inside and we work on that, look at patterns and tracking and some of the exercises I do with people in private sessions. But even when we know you've done work, or whatever amount, even if you've done only 2% so far, please don't negate that. Credit yourself for the 2%. If you don't, why would you ever be inspired to do a 3%? Why? You're already depressed over the 2% that didn't work. We have to get you to assemble even faith in yourself. Gratitude has to be assembled. Everything has to be assembled because we've shattered the world. We've shattered and separated everything in this universe. And now we have to reassemble it. Remembering the dismembered parts is what it means. We're going to have to reassemble. Reassembling means, there we go. Bringing together, joining, bridging, healing. All those words are the same. Bringing things back together. How? Okay, well, my life is still kind of messed up and I'm kind of in a negative vibe often. Well, what about gratitude? Well, I just don't practice gratitude much because a lot of things didn't go well. Okay, that's not how you heal. It's good that you see that, but that's not where you go at the end of the day. What do you want to do? So we're going to look for some things you can be grateful for. Can you name one or two things? And I'm not one of those people that just, you need to find something to be grateful about. It's okay. Has something gone better? Well, I still have the same job. I don't like it. I don't make much. Anything at all going better? Well, I got a raise, but it was a small raise. Shh, wait a minute. Don't do the but it was a small raise. I know that's how it feels and it's frustrating. I get it. I'm not stuffing that feeling for you. I'm saying, but let's stop for a moment. You did get a raise. Yes. Did you take a moment to say thank you to God, the universe, yourself, all of creation? I assembled a raise. I didn't have it, and now I have it. Wow, I have more than where I started. Can we soak that in? Well, yeah, but now I got to pay more taxes. This is how some people are. Better assemble gratitude, assemble relationship, assemble everything. Bring back together everything in your life. Reassemble everything that's been shot apart. It's shot apart because the universe shoots apart, but also it's shot apart because, I thought I had a boyfriend or a girlfriend in school or whatever, and they betrayed me, and they left me for somebody else at the prom. Wow, heartbreak, hurt, and all that. And yet it's something that's been fragmented away. It's a dismembered part. It's like in soul retrieval, you bring back together the parts that have been, lost. And there's all kinds of lost parts of us. Lost child, the lost, inner child, but also faith and hope and all that too. So this has all been shattered and we need to bring it back together. Gratitude, bring every... authentic. I'm not saying you just go, fine, I'm grateful. I'm saying you authentically find something. Just in fact, today, I woke up and there were a lot of hectic things going on amongst a lot of people and things, whatever in life and around me. And for a moment there, I was like, wow, I just felt a kind of a little bit off, like a little tired because of all the chaos that's going on. And it's not the worst or the best of any day. It's just a lot of stuff that's going on. And I did my usual morning prayer. And then I was moving along doing something else, and all of a sudden I noticed 1 ounce better. I noticed 1 ounce all of a sudden for one split second. I felt completely happy and at peace. Even though it was like, well, there's this stuff. I did my work, went back into my day for a moment, and within moments, there was this second of happiness. And then I kind of went, okay, well, where was I? And then went back, into whatever I was doing. I went, wait a minute. There was just this brilliant moment of light, of absolute, there was happiness and peace despite the chaos. Wow. So I went back to it, fanning it into a flame. Come on. Getting it fanned into a flame, and then it grows and grows. And I said, this is what I'm choosing today. And I just breathed it back in. And it, despite whatever else is going on in the day, I felt somewhat immune for the most part. Why? Because of one spark that I almost forgot, almost just let blow out. And instead got it and fanned it into a flame. We've got to assemble our realities, our health, our everything. Otherwise, you're trying to be either depressed, I can't do it, it's not going to work, or you're acting entitled. I don't have to do anything. One, I won't do anything because it's not going to work, and the other is I won't do anything because I'm entitled. You should make me happy. You should, to the world and people, your boss or whatever at work. No. You have to participate with God and reassemble a life. And it's great to do, and it's right to do, but reassemble a life. So, but do not negate the work. Do not negate, even if it's 1 ounce, like I said for me this morning. Don't do that. Guys, it's not worth it. It's not necessary. You're all right. You're doing all right. Fan that into a flame, and let's go after some more. Tomorrow, let's find another thing to be grateful for. But authentically, like I said, to really, not just to go, fine, I'm going to be grateful for the fact that I even have food in my refrigerator. I guess you could do that. That's fine. But I'm asking that you go eat a piece of the food and go, God, I'm so grateful. This tastes so good. Like authentically, viscerally try to feel happy about something. And if you can't think of anything, do you have any decent friends? No, not at all. Do you have any history of any good friends? Yeah, but I had one, but they died. Oh, give thanks that you had them. Hey, dear beloved so-and-so, thanks for being in my life, man. You remind me of what the happy friendship could be, and I don't have that now. Oh, wait. The fact that I'm remembering you and breathing you in means that you, the happy friend, the symbol of happiness, I now have inside. So thank you. It's now mine. That's assembling. Assembling beloved pets that have passed on, or even if they're still alive, give thanks. I'm so grateful that animal just makes me laugh, and it reminds me of freedom and peace and happiness and so on. God, I saw a movie just the other day, or it was a TV show or something. When I was walking past a TV, I saw a scene where out like in a farm or a ranch or something, there were these baby goats, and they were just gorgeous. And I'm like, God, that's so cool. Instead of, wish I had a baby goat. I'm like, God, it's just so beautiful. I'm like smiling, looking at them. I'm like wowed by them. And then I say to myself, I'm going to assemble that too. I can see myself owning some property, and I will bring life to it. I will rescue animals, and you guys, some of you know that I've already talked about that. Having a retreat someday, so I'm putting that out there. If people want to ever help fund that or donate towards it or whatever, small or large amounts, I call it Edenshire, but it's just great. And even if I don't have it this moment in its complete manifestation, doesn't matter. I can still see a scene and go, that's so cool, and own that within myself. See, that again is assembling. So be patient with yourselves. Be at peace, and not overly beating yourself up about something didn't manifest immediately or whatever it happens to be. These things in life, they have to be assembled. And I don't mean just one or two things. I mean pretty much everything needs to be assembled. So we film these projects. We film these presentations. How did we do that? People donated here and there, and that's assembling a fund for it. And then as we could afford, we got a better iPhone to be able to film it. And then we got a stand. Instead of having somebody try to hold it, we got first a little tripod thing to put on a table. Then we could afford a taller stand. We're assembling, not having to buy a production company for tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. We just assembled it. Then a tripod, and then a light, and then a couple of lights. And we assembled it to the point where we tried out even having a few lights, because professionally speaking, that's the ideal thing. But I'm happy with just using one light or the light from outside kind of coming in my window, filming it at the right time of day so we have some light, and that's enough for me. But we still assembled it, and that's just naming one project. Whether it's Edenshire, assembling the funds for that, production of these live events, but also relationships, assembling. And so going more in that direction now and focusing on relationships, whether it's friends or partners or whatever, instead of, because this is so interesting, when I ask people, hey, well, tell me about your history and with relationships. Well, there was this one, and here was the pros and cons. There was that one, here's the pros and cons. There was this one. This one was great, but we broke up because we had a misunderstanding. That one was really terrible, so I don't know why I did it. And it's like that, just lots of pros and cons. That is not how you're going to get the next relationship, because you just said, I'm quite used to relations, pros and cons. So that's kind of your pattern. That even great ones, they come to an end, so there's still a bummer to it. So everything has these, it's all ups and downs. You know how the world is, life is, everything's got its ups and downs. And that's true, but do you want to really go into the market, whether it's online, a dating service, or into the market of the universe and say, hi, I'm just looking for my next up and down, positive, negative kind of pros and cons relationship? It's like, well, anybody will do. And then they toss it your way and you go, oh, look, that looks kind of familiar. I like that. There's an energy between us. It's because they're as messed up as the last one. So you're falling in love with, this feels kind of familiar. Yeah, it's same as before. So don't do it. Instead, try this. The negatives out of each relationship of the past, again, whether it's friend or partner, the negatives out of each one, what have I learned? And I don't mean judgmentally learn, like I learned never trust a blonde, never trust a male, never trust I'm not talking about like ridiculous judgments. I'm talking about, what did you learn? For example, let's see, this one, when I check in and I look at that, I probably should have given this one more time to develop, to really see what was going on there and what they were about, what I was about. This one here, well, this one, there's some things I didn't like about this, and I can kind of grow from that. This one, I really felt a lot of negativity because, I'm talking about the negatives first. This one, I wanted to have children and they didn't, so I really felt a big loss with that, and so on. But what did I learn? That if I want children, then I want to pick a partner. We talk about it early on. Take a little more time to date, like with this example over here. This one I got involved in, and I ended up funding their life more than equal contribution. I ended up funding their life more than they did anything for me. That was a drag. What did you learn? I probably want to take better care maybe of myself financially, or have some agreements that are clear, get things in writing, or whatever it is you think you needed to learn. That's turning the negatives into a positive. Number one. Next, what about the positives? This one was sexy, and this one was wealthy, and this one was, but now what can you assemble for you out of that? You know what? This one was wealthy, but they really had a knack. They took time and made great investments. I'm going to do that. This one was sexy. I'm going to start being sexy. I just dig it. I'm going to just start feeling a little more for myself. And then this one, oh, they were so creative. I loved how they could just take a notepad and doodle really cool things. So which means you like what? Creativity. What kind? Well, I loved the free flow design. So buy some things and put them in your apartment. They're yours now. They're not theirs. Don't tell me ever that this person had the key to your creativity, that one to your sexuality, that one to your freedom, that one to your self-worth. It's not only not true, it's unhealthy. They're yours. Grab them and pull them into yourself and own them. this is for you, and it's amazing. It's the best, healthiest way to really create a relationship. It's a responsible way, but I'm not telling you to do like people with their treasure mapping kind of, I want a guy who's this and this and this, because that becomes like a Frankenstein. I want this and this and this and this and this. Male, female, whatever they happen to be. You're assembling them in kind of a weird way. You're insisting and you're assembling it on a linear, shallow body level. I'm talking about what lessons have you learned inside yourself, not what person outside. I want them to have dark hair and they have to like this kind of music. It sounds similar and it's a little bit overlapped, but one of them is a control freak, and it's an assembling that's you're Dr. Frankenstein, and you're telling us what you want your monster to look like. I'm talking about internal work. What have I learned? And what am I starting to own for myself? Not what can Frankenstein have that I want. It's what can I own? And it's like, wow, I want a person, I want a life. I want me to feel, and then the people around me to have somewhat the same, like laughter, good sense of humor, But I'm not saying they must have. I'm saying I like humor. I like certain, music. This is me. Once I get an idea that this is me, not them, this is me and my ownership of it all, then it's going to become very apparent. Now that I know who I am and what I'm about, anything, person, whatever out here that comes into my airspace, I already know what I'm about. Instead of, I'm missing something, you might have it, let me grab you. Instead, it's, I actually am these things. So do you resonate with that? Well, a little. Well, then we'll have a little relationship. Call it acquaintance. We connect a little more than a little. Okay, great. Then we'll call it friends, pen pals, or friends. And a little more and a little more and a little more, maybe we become intimate friends. But don't think that just because somebody resonates 1 out of 5 pieces, that you're going to say, oh, there's my life mate. And that's what desperation does. Always looking for someone to fill you, when in fact you're supposed to be full already. And I know that on earth we still struggle. I know that we still have issues, challenges, lessons. I get that. I'm not saying you're perfect, but you know that as far as you understand perfection, you're somewhat in touch with it. Perfection meaning a holistic experience of who you are. And it's kind of cool because it's like playful and, whatever it happens to be that you like. So it could be, I want somebody who's intelligent. Good, then develop your intelligence. And playful and creative. If you don't do that, if you're missing any building block, okay, any building block gone, what's going to happen is you're going to meet somebody who comes along and maybe only has that one building block. And then you say, oh, nice to meet you. We complete each other. No, you don't. Completion would look like this. And it would play like this, bringing to each other some. It doesn't look enmeshed and smothering. It's sharing, but certain completion. So most human beings come from a place of something's missing and I want to get it from someone else. I'm going to reassemble it in someone else. So all this kind of a notion of you complete me is totally wrong. It's totally inaccurate and it's unhealthy. So think about how you might complete yourself by looking at what you've learned and what you've loved. What you've learned and what you've loved. I learned A, B, and C, and I love A, B, and C. Bring it to yourself. In my own experience, I'm grateful that I learned that. Instead of I was married and we were wonderful, friends and all that in so many ways, so many great things. But I didn't ever meet another person and go, okay, let me have a new wife. I had a wife and I didn't need another wife. That's how I felt complete. I had children. I didn't need to go and have more children. I'm not saying it's wrong to have a second wife or a second husband or 5 more children. I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying for me. So you have to just go in with yourself. So I wasn't like, well, if that didn't work, I got to have another. No, I felt complete. I learned what I could and loved what I could out of the experience. Not always perfectly, but as much as I could at the time in any given time in my life. And so I could go, okay, I had that. And then now not at first. I remember there were times when I thought, I wish I had someone that would be more of this or more of that. I did go through a brief period of that, especially just after, marriage and that sort of thing, because that's a normal rebound thing. But I saw through it, and then I got it, and I'm like, okay, I got it. Don't need to do that. So, and it's kind of weird because then I don't need somebody else to be the second version of that first person. That's not really honoring them or getting to know them. They have an assignment. So instead, it's like the next person. So for me, had wife, let's say, that kind of thing. Then I had an example of a person that was much more like supportive of my work, involved in my work and supportive of my work. But that's what they were to me. So, okay, now I have that. So I have a wife, and then I have a second thing, somebody who's more into my work. Then, because I got married to somebody that I met in high school and so forth, I never really, like I've said this many times, I've never actually dated, and I never actually had a friendship with a person. I just got involved, and then just a little bit involved with another, more work-related kind of supportive thing. But I never really had a friend kind of a thing, like a gal friend or an intimate friend. So all of a sudden, there was one of those. Like I could know them at that level. So I was assembling. Now I've had a girlfriend. Hadn't had that. I have had a girlfriend now. Even though it was kind of a limited version of that. Because by this time, even though I was still a young guy, I was still already touring and all that. So it was on a limited basis. But for me, it was a wonderful, experiential, but experimental, period of my life. I do that now. This is feeling kind of cool because I've done these few variations of relationship. Then I also had period of nothing. Now I got that, so that alone and all that, which is also mixed in some here. I've also had intimate friendships where I had like one here and then a couple years later, maybe just briefly here and there. So I've done intimate friendships. Then I did things like intimate friends where I had a couple of people in my life at a given time. Did that too, where a couple of people could share or know about each other and kind of just have an open kind of thing. A brief period or a period nonetheless. But it was another assembling, so that I could say, I assembled. I've done all the different kinds of relations. I love every one of them. There's not one of them I would say I would never do that again. I'm not saying an incident that I wouldn't do again, but the relationship or the type. They were all really cool. Even when you just dated, even when you did one night stands, you could say, what did I learn from that? And get something extracted that could become part of your new you. Because you learned. I'm not saying do it again, what you learned from it. But also, like I know one friend who did a one night stand thing, and what was important to her is she was kind of beat down a lot emotionally and verbally by an ex-partner. When she did a one night stand, the value, and I'm not trying to justify one night stands, I'm just saying that for her there was a value. She said, when this guy who was really good looking showed me his interest, it really sparked in me that I have value. Now, of course, it's not real value. He was going to use her for a night. But she could still extract, apparently, though, he did find me attractive. And he did. So she could still come from that saying, I have more value than I thought I had. I thought former boyfriend, husband, whatever was saying, nobody would be interested in you. And if they did, it was just all negative talk. Now they said, I got picked out of a crowd. And that meant a lot to them. It's kind of a shallow thing and all that. I get that, but that's not the point. Underneath that, there was also something quite, for her, it was something quite significant, something important. And I think it's beautiful. I wouldn't shame it, just go, good job. But would you learn from it? I learned what to not do, etc. And what did I learn positive? Got it. Take that and assemble it and take it with you and move into your life for the next level. So you get to a point of maturity, and it's not age maturity, psychological and spiritual maturity. You get to an age of maturity where you go, I now have a decent understanding about who I am, a holistic idea of who I am. Now, when I meet someone, I'm not missing a lot of pieces anymore, and it's kind of cool. And you realize, wow, and for me personally, one of the, as a spiritual teacher, I got to say, if you don't mind my kind of being really open for a moment. sometimes people say spiritual teachers, they should never talk about personal stuff because it could cause people to judge them or whatever. I don't know. But I have to be honest. And in my own personal life, one of the most challenging pieces to assemble is because of being a spiritual teacher. There's a part of me, I mean, not to mention work, lots of work all my life, touring and hectic and airports and cars. I mean, people just have no idea what that's like on an ongoing basis. I mean, touring like a rock band. I mean, week after week after week after week, and then have a 1 week break, and then week after. It's been crazy much of my life. But even when I'm not on tour, I'm working because there's things, books to sign, books to write, whatever, decisions to make. There's a lot going on. Whether it was partly when I had kids at one time or whatever else. So lots of work. So what I really like, I always say this to friends that know me over the last years, I would say, guys, you know what I want? You know what I like most in my life? Ease. And that doesn't mean I'm insisting on ease all the time. I'm saying I love ease. I love peace and ease. Even if we're working, I want it to be collaborative and playful and fun. When Unity of Sedona said, would you be our spiritual leader? I said, only if it's fun. If you guys are going to be all freaky and board member kind of, political board member kinds of people, not interested. But it's the same with partnerships or girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever they're called in this life for you guys. Your partners, your boyfriends, your girlfriends, your husbands, your wives, your children. For me, look for what you're looking for. Look for what's important to you and try to bring that in. One that I have tried to bring in consistently is, guys, I say to everybody, I want ease. I insist on ease. So, if you want to be in my life, there's got to be ease, I would tell them. Even when friends would get together, it was really fun and beautiful. We had a lot of great experiences. But even when friends would get together, they would very often, and I know this was very hard on them, and I'm sorry that happened for them, but they would get together and maybe meet me on tour and come together and we're gonna all have fun. But if any of them were bickering, I was done. I would just kind of walk off on my own. And they're like, well, we've come all this way. We want to hang out with Michael. Done. Lack of ease. If work wasn't done, Michael walks away. If there wasn't ease and people were bickering, Michael walks away. Ease or you don't have me. And so in my life, I love people that are willing to just be without agendas and without trips and without arguing. And I love that, because in the work, sometimes it's hectic and you're moving and all that. So I love ease. I do. And and yet there's been times, guys, when you try this technique, you're going to say, well, but I did this and some things still went wrong. They're still going to be challenged in this world. I've had that happen where people, just even an intimate friendship, whether it's brief or long term, there are people that I thought it felt like they swore they were trustworthy and everything was fine and we can confide because I love that, man. I love when if I'm going to get a massage, which I don't do very often, but when I can get a massage, I want to let go. I want to just, even if I fall asleep, I want to fully drop into it. I'll go in, if I own a hot tub, I'm going to sit in my hot tub every day. I don't do it for 3 months, like most people that own them and then never get in again. Years and years I've owned a hot tub in a house here or there, and years I've done it every single day. Or if I didn't have one, a hot bath. Just because it's a commitment of beauty, it's ease. Find those things and devote yourself, commit to having those in your life. And but it does happen. Someone's going to tell you, I promise there's this house, I'm going to rent it to you, and you're going to have a hot tub and you can relax in it every day, and then it's not there. You're going to be a little bummed. Like in a relationship, you think there's something there and it might not be there. Maybe they tried and they couldn't do it, but that's why I love communication, so that everything's out in the open, everything's up front between those two people involved. So for me as a spiritual teacher, it's really a kind of a freaky experience, because people will often say, hey, I'd like to be your friend, or hey, can I, hang out with you or whatever. And typically I can't because of all the stuff that comes in, no offense to them, but all the stuff that goes along with spiritual teacher, or you guys might have roles that you play. You can't always let your children see everything you do, obviously, because there's a role you're playing with them. And it's the same for a spiritual teacher. So I'm just saying that for me, like if people say, hey, can we hang out? I did that a couple times in my life. And it often bit me in the butt, because when people say, can I just hang out? Sure. And I love doing that. I love just saying, yes, we're all cool. Let's hang out. But when somebody has hung out with me, there's times when they've said, okay, we're going to hang out. He's probably just going to sit at the dinner table with us and chant or something. And instead, I sit there and talk about, I don't know, The Simpsons or Tool Time or some, I only watch a couple shows, but I don't watch The Simpsons anymore, but I thought they were pretty funny years ago when I was watching some of it. But they sit and they think, wow, he's drinking like a soda and talking about Led Zeppelin or whatever, And they're like, oh, I thought he was just going to like sit and chant, and we were all going to just ohm together. And you have no idea the judgment, man, that comes from people if I deviate any amount from what they want to hold as a projection. It's kind of annoying, but there's a point I don't want you to miss. It's contrary to ease. I want to be able to sit down and have the soda and talk and relax, be at ease. And if somebody wants to be a intimate friend or a partner or a hangout kind of friend or whatever, even students that attend my events, and let's say it's several days events, I have to pretty much, okay, we do the class, it's break time, I go and walk away and do my own thing, because I'd love to hang out because I love people, but it doesn't always work. And some people have made it easier, and I thank you. Those of you whoever have made it easier. There's folks that are regulars at picking me up on tour, and taking me to hotel, and they're great. They can laugh, and God bless them. God only knows if they've ever been tempted to judge me for something I'm doing or saying as a casual person. Just the human Michael. It's not much difference. What you see is what you get with me, I think, most of the time. But God bless them, and God only knows if they ever saw something that made them, oops, But the fact is, God bless them, because they still remained. They went through that second stage of, and then got through it to the third stage of, hey, you know what? I like the guy even more after I walk through the little temptation that goes on. And with you as well. Watch this, because people are going to like you, and they're going to typically go through the second stage of relationship where they're going to find something they don't like or you don't like about them. But can you make it to the third stage, which is also called assembling? Can you make it to the third stage? The stage where I'm going to look past that one thing that was annoying. Now, if 90% of our relationship is annoying, then it's time for me to say, what can I learn from that piece? And walk away. And that's okay. It's encouraged, really. It's okay. Don't hate or judge. Learn what you can and walk away. Take care of yourself. It's cool. And so that's kind of what I had to do as well. And I can't even tell you, and I don't know that I've ever expressed this openly or publicly, but I love the concept. I love at ease. I love people that can be trustworthy. Hey, can we talk about this? Yeah, no problem. And they keep it confidential, and they keep it like to heart and not judge me and for something they've asked me and I answer their question. Whatever the concept or topic might be. I love that. And it helps me kind of, the old saying, let your hair down. And even when intimate with people, guys, don't be intimate in a calculated, when your body feels like it's on defense, or in a calculated way, when your head's like having to doubt what you're doing. I think it's important for people to understand. Assemble. One thing to assemble, besides characteristics of people, are feelings like ease. If I can't feel ease with that person, why am I with them? So, and sometimes, it may not be all the ease you had thought or hoped. It happens, it happens to everybody in life, and it's happened to me. But know what you're looking for. If you don't know that ease, trust, love, collaboration, corroboration, friendship, or whatever it is, if you don't know that those are part of what are your reality, then how are you going to ever create them? So fall in love with concepts, bring them into you, and let them add to the love you are. Don't fall in love with the people per se, but the concepts. And when you share concepts like this person and I are sharing this concept of, there's enough attraction, but there's playfulness. oh my God, how cool, and then just to let go, to be like two puppies rolling around and laughing and biting each other the way they do and yelping and kind of fun. And you just see the tails wagging. People can be like that, friendships or intimate friendships. To just be, oh God, let's let go of all the airs of, we have to be old or young or male or female or this straight or gay or whatever. Instead of labels, just drop it all. That's what I would say. Drop it all. And that's what I've loved in friendships. And that's why I don't often do intimate friendships like frequently per se, because it kind of has to fit that vibe of safety and integrity within those two people, me and whomever, or even friendships, me and friends. I really want to see it hold that vibe. And otherwise, I'm not really that interested. So, any of you that have ever said, hey, we love you unconditionally, as a teacher, as a friend, whoever, thank you guys. That, for me, has been an important part of my life, because ease may be the most important concept or characteristic in any person as a friend or lover, whatever they are, ever for me. So if any of you have ever added to that sense of ease, love unconditionally, no judgments on, it doesn't mean you're in denial if I say something inappropriate that you don't like. You may not agree with it. I'm not saying you don't notice that, but you have a way to say, and it's still okay. That's how I would want to be with clients. They tell me some of the most awesome things and some of the most gruesome things, and they don't get judged or hated by me. I get it. Wow. Whether they did it or someone did it to them, and I'm like, wow, it's still okay. You're still loved. Absolutely. It doesn't change how I feel about the client. And that's how we should all be with each other. But it's typically not that way, and it makes it a little challenging for you and I to be able to say, I'm going to drop into this experience. I'm going to just drop into this. God, so many people would viscerally change, heal, if they could have, therapists. Like children come into a therapist. The therapist, if they're good, they might sit on the floor with them and start playing with crayons and building blocks. Instead of, I'll sit up here and you, the child, sit down there and do something for me. Build that block. Build a wall or whatever. You sit down there and, Mr. Rogers them, man. You just go in and do a Mr. Rogers, and you kind of get in with them. It's so cool. Mr. Rogers was the character on TV. He's just a great therapist soul of a person. And as I'm coming to a close here, I'll share this, that I like that he would do these things like hands-on. There was a time when racism was still so strong in the States. And there's a scene, I think this is in maybe a biography about him, but there's a point where he thought, there's this racism and stuff about black people are different somehow. So he said, okay, so he had a black police officer kind of guy, character, on the show. And he was talking to him and he said, hey, I'm going to go and wash my feet in this little swimming pool. Would you like to join me? So Mr. Rogers is showing this like, here we go. You got these two first of all, they're grown-ups in a kid's pool, like their feet in a kid's pool. Then they're two men, exposing their legs. No way. One's black, one's white. To me, that just kicks ass. It is amazing. Feet in the pool, and they're just talking. He doesn't like lecture the world or the kids watching about racism. He just flies it in under the radar by demonstrating it, living it, viscerally doing it. And that's what Rudolf Steiner was trying to say. You don't just program kids information, you give them the experience of the information so they understand it holistically. And there's times when I've said, oh my God, in workshops or even with clients at times, and friends, there's times when just getting down, there's guys there's videos on TV that show you abused animals. People get down on the ground with those animals and the animals start changing because someone's with them. And so I feel so strongly about that. I love that idea. But it has to be safe. It has to be okay. It has to be agreed upon and all that. And then when you have all that safety agreed upon and all that, it's a drag when anyone would spoil that. It really is a drag. It's a trauma. It's traumatic when you think you have that kind of beauty. So Mr. Rogers does that with this guy. And of course, the hate mail that comes in is going to tempt him to go, did I do something wrong? Maybe I shouldn't be demonstrating equality of people, males, females, as well as colors. He would be tempted to think that. He would be harmed into being tempted to think that because of the harm that people are doing and saying to him. But he just keeps going the course. And I just think it's the most beautiful thing. I really, really do think it's the most beautiful thing. And there's people that I know that are so, they uptight and they're so guarded. And there's times when I say, come here, and wrestle and play and laugh and tickle. And, as long as it's agreed and so on and so on, I just think it's so beautiful to get in our bodies and play with our bodies viscerally, somatically, right together. And I said this before, but some of you have seen this video that was out. This is from a movie that was being made about healing sexual abuse. And there was this guy, 6.5 feet tall, muscular guy. And this was because I was working with a porn star couple. And I was supposed to, kind of help them heal and whatever. So I helped them within minutes of talking. Within minutes, we immediately found there's something there. Instead of just like, so tell me about the porn industry and whatever. We're talking about couples and partnership and sex and whatever in this video. Because they were open to healing, that gave me a foot in the door where I said, okay, cool. So I went right after, like, so tell me, because I know I've worked with a lot of porn stars and so forth, and and strippers and whatever else, and there's a lot of past abuse. Not everybody, but there's a lot of sexual abuse in folks in these industries. And so I asked, are you guys aware that there's a lot of, and they said, yeah, there's a lot of, unfortunately, a lot of abuse. And then the male of the two was starting to then talk about, yeah, I had this happen. Immediately was sharing, but wasn't going to emotionally break open. They were just, kind of guarded. And I mean, I'm a porn star. I know how to control myself and put on airs of being a character and, and like an actor and that sort of thing. So, and plus, I don't know you, his attitude could have been, I don't know you, and plus you're a guy. Why are we talking about this? So he was guarded for the minutes it took, just a few minutes in this conversation with him on film. And one thing I simply did, I held out my fist and said, take it and squeeze it as hard as you can and shake it and talk about the person or persons that had abused you when you were a child. So you got this 6.5 foot muscular guy, and he's just, and he starts talking about it. And I say, now repeat this. And he's repeating something because I'm getting him to connect emotionally and intellectually and spiritually and all with this stuff that happened to him. God, he just broke open deep, deep. First, he started to cry. Then I sat up next to him, which everybody was like, okay, wait. This guy could knock Michael out. I mean, why is Michael... I went and sat up with him, put his head on my lap, my shoulder. As soon as I took this giant guy's head and put it right here on my shoulder and held him, oh my God, the sound of his wailing kind of crying was so moving. And that's the kind of stuff that makes me say, I want to viscerally be with people and so on. However, it's a very shamed kind of a thing. It's concept and all that. And so I have to assemble what works and let go of what doesn't. And so, that's why I don't do a lot of that work anymore because of, how it can be so charged for people watching. There's a lot of people that, hey, you're a spiritual leader and yet you're writing sexuality books and you're doing this and that. And, and it was kind of interesting because when we did this movie a few years back, the director and producers, they were saying, so if more of these were done, would you be the lead guy who would be transforming? Would you, if we did a reality show, would you do the transforming of lives sexually? Like every week we'd have a show, and I'm like, the real Michael's like, yes, absolutely. But there's this other that leaks in, that goes, uh-oh. The voices of, and I know you guys are going to say, oh, Michael, you shouldn't listen to them. I get that. I love your love. I love your support. I do. I just don't think most people know how much crap comes with this. And so I kind of, I retired, so to speak, from that, but I still see it. And if I could meet more people that could say, I would love that. I could totally own and take responsibility for myself and my feelings. I would love to be able to laugh with you or, wrestle, or I would love friendships like that. The same as an animal responds to it, a person responds to it, children respond when people get on the floor. I love it. I totally believe in it. And there's a part of me that would love to see more of that in my life, more of that playful ease. However, I also recognize I'm gonna integrate the parts that can work, and I'm gonna have to let go of the things that don't work, just like everybody else. So mine might be an extreme example of a story, but please take it for what you will. Every so often I try to insert, a personal example of something. And to me, that was my biggest example I could share. That's one of my greatest longings and my greatest loves and my greatest losses all at the same time, that particular topic. Okay? So I'm going to do a closing now and just thank you guys for listening, for learning, for sharing, and for sending in even a simple post that somebody sent in saying, what do I do with this or that, and letting me then just launch into a sharing about that. Which, by the way, if you think about it, that means that you inspired the talk. Now, what if one person asks or reaches out? Can I ask a question about X, Y, and Z? And then Michael does a talk, or anybody does a talk, but let's say Michael does a talk. And let's say that talk affects one person, then that means the person who simply asked a question just changed a life besides their own. What if it affects 10 people? And what if those 10 even affect one each? Do you understand that one person changed the lives, not just the speaker, Michael, that one person simply asking, opening their heart and asking a question just changed the lives of so many people. I just think it's the most beautiful thing. I just will probably never cease being grateful for it. And never will I underestimate it. There's such an emotion, a beauty, a vulnerability that we can laugh together and cry together and doubt together and still hold each other in sacred space and then arise into the light at the end of the tunnel. All right, so thank you. And I just know that I thank you from the deepest part of my heart and soul.